Lagos, thank you. Kedu. It's a pleasure to be here. I come from a small town in Australia, in New South Wales, called Queanbeyan. And Queanbeyan is known as a real shithole. You know, a really boring, ugly place. But I'm proud to be from there. And I changed my mind at the last minute what poem I was going to do in response to Dike's beautiful poem. So I'm going to do this one. So I grew up in a small flat at the top of a big apartment block with people from all around the world trying to forge a life for themselves in Australia. We had people from the South Pacific, Tonga, Samoa. We had people from the Philippines, people from the Balkans fleeing war. We had Aboriginal people all together trying to forge a life for themselves. And our parents would often sit on the steps of the flat block and they would smoke cigarettes and they would play chess and they would tell stories, they would tell yarns from their parts of the world. And I grew up in a Malaysian family actually, mixed Malaysian father, my mother Irish Australian. But growing up in the flats, I met all sorts of troublemakers, you know, all sorts of scallywags, all sorts of reprobates, ruffians, rapscallions. I knew none of their government names back then. Back then, some of the most wondrous people I knew were self-destructive, talented vandals who took to relationships with mallet and saw. But there was beauty in the streets of Queanbeyan. You could see it everywhere. In fishtails and donuts, the silver cursive that slanted off tyres, in spray can fumes and opals of oil, in kickflips and crossovers, cuts and kebab shops, in sneakers that cluster hung like grapes on power lines. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. Those hood chandeliers. And in that something. Could they see it too? The generation who printed a crystal font on its bloodstream, the entrepreneur with check pistol and silencer as thick as a ballerina's wrist. You see, this was the Australia I saw. No Don Bradmans playing cricket, no Pavlovas, no bronze bodies on Bondi Beach, no coastline etched in shale, no white sails of the Opera House, no. These were suburbs inscribed on scarified earth, an alphabet of exiles far from lands of birth. I'm talking pittance workers and remittance senders, Aboriginal custodians and the kids of immigrants, you know the ones heard about, but not from. The ones talked at, but never to. The ones treated as if very, very small. In other words, us. Each day, like smoke, I unwound up the stairs of the flats. I smelled the oils and spices of many lands. I heard many tongues. In flat 7, a Macedonian man said, "Hey, shapresh brother," as he massaged his elbow. The Tongan woman in flat 16 said, "Maloi lele," as she prepared for her 3rd night shift in a row. And my mother and father said, "Assalamu alaikum," when I entered flat 26. I learned that in Malay culture, a storyteller is named Penglipur Lara, a dispeller of worries, a reliever of sorrows. This is also the name given to a garden of delights where all cares are lost. And what delights in stories, what insights, what power to give voice to the worlds inside. Shit. You and I know there are many types of stories. I heard carnivorous tales loped down gentrifying streets, the hiss of talkback serpents, the whistle of "go back to where you came from." I lost faith and leapt into the whirlpool. They were scribbled hours, pilled and powdered, full of sex and camaraderie. Part of me knew on days like this, the timer ticked, history slipped, we skipped words like stones from our hands, words that could never be retrieved, like love, like hate, like us, like goodbye. Yet somehow I found that something, like a magic key connecting ancient and new. I found it on beats, breaks, tapes and acetate, unordained lion hearts on thrones, self-made. Do you hear? Lagos, do you hear what I'm talking about? Make some noise, everybody. Yeah. I'm talking about Tupac's and Lauryn Hill's, Rakeem's, Nas's, Kendrick Lamar's, Public Enemy's, siphoning El Haji, Malik El Shabazz, BY's, Deltas and Brad Struts, Def Wish casts and coolisms, Hilltop hoods and horror shows. I'm talking F.A. Paul Azinos. Do you hear? Do you hear what I'm talking about? I'm talking about the numberless underground kings and queens who taught us the power of our voices, of non-conformity, that each lyric, each windmill, each scarred 45 or fan of paint from a nozzle was a story aching to be told, unfolding before us the fractals of cosmos and starlight, a world all of a sudden unbearably bright. So linger now, linger with me. Consider that somehow, despite the broken bottles and tattered bigotry and racism, we could still own that something, be that something, something airborne, something gold shot, beings arranged in a calligraphy of rhythm and rebellion, people with so much fucking resilience.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's impossible not to smile, right? So let it play. That something, let it play. My friends in Lagos, weave your stories into shining nets. Drag them behind zigzagging decks, zooped up cars, trains and trams through streets and sunsets. Trawl for the things you thought you'd lost. Because you, me, us, we are more than statistics. We are more than misfits. We are more than your dreams are unrealistic. This is the paint that drips from every brick, the spirit that soothes the weary limb. This is the new scripture of our lives, spelled skyscraper high, in capital letters, bold.